10. Cut off. Imagine living on a royal salary for your entire life, then having it taken away in the blink of an eye. Well, that's what Harry experienced in early 2020. Just shortly after announcing they would be taking a step back from the royal family, Harry was financially cut off from his family. The damage was done within the first quarter of 2020, meaning that the royals cut Harry off at the first chance they had. Originally, news sources reported that something like this would happen after Meghan and Harry faced their royal review, where they officially cut ties with the royal family, meaning that at this time they would no longer be supported financially, nor be able to receive any other royal benefits like security from the public. During the interview with Oprah, Harry said that since the first quarter of 2020, they've been living off Harry's inheritance from his mother, Diana, saying, quote, "I've got all my mom left me, and without that, we would not have been able to do this. She saw it coming, and I certainly felt her presence throughout this entire process." It looks like Harry and Meghan have been on their own for longer than we thought. At number 9, Trapped. During their interview, Harry also opened up about his feelings about the royal family and how he realized that he was trapped. Harry opened up saying that if it weren't for Meghan, he wouldn't have left the royal family because he was trapped and didn't see a way out. Meghan was essentially his saving grace because she gave him the excuse he was looking for to leave the royals behind. When he said he felt trapped, it actually surprised Oprah because she didn't expect him to feel this way, judging by the fact that this was his family, but really, Harry had a negative experience and it was all hidden behind a smile. Speaking further on the subject, Harry said, quote, "No matter who you are in the family, no matter what's going on in your personal life, no matter what's just happened, if the bikes roll up and the car rolls up, you've got to get dressed, you've got to get in there, wipe the tears away, shake off whatever you're thinking about, and you've got to get on your A game." This pretty much goes against what a lot of people thought of the situation, being that Meghan was the one who orchestrated their decision to step back because Harry wanted to leave just as badly. Before I continue on with the list, I'd like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far because it really helps us out a lot. At number 8, Royal Curtsy. During their interview, Meghan also opened up about the first time she met the Queen. It was an unplanned moment as they were originally going to meet Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. Harry found out that his grandmother, the Queen, was going to be at Prince Andrew's home as well, and so he scrambled to prepare Meghan for this important introduction. Harry then asked Meghan if she knew how to curtsy, and she was shocked. Meghan didn't know how to, and she thought that curtsying was for outdoors, saying, quote, "I thought that was part of the fanfare. I didn't know that's what happened on the inside." Meghan recalled that this was the first moment that she realized that things weren't going to be as easy being with someone in the royal family. She then remarked that they practiced her curtsy just before going in to meet the Queen. It's a silly story that also says a lot about how serious things are in the family, like having to curtsy for your future in-law. At number 7, Flower Girl. Weddings are almost always full of stress and drama. I mean, I haven't been to many weddings, but from what I recall, preparations are the worst part of the whole thing. Now, mind you, that is for a normal person's special day, so imagine how stressful it must be to prepare for a royal wedding. Meghan and Harry's wedding was so wild and stressful that Meghan actually cried because of it, specifically because of drama surrounding Princess Charlotte's Flower Girl dress. Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, and Meghan's sister-in-law made Meghan cry the week of her wedding, even though it was reported the other way around. News sources published a pretty damaging rumor saying that Meghan brought Kate to tears over her daughter's Flower Girl dress. In her interview with Oprah, Meghan had to set the record straight that Meghan was the one who was hurt in that situation, but that Kate also apologized to her, writing her an apology letter and sending her flowers as well. At number 6, Baby Girl. Of course, during this interview, they also had to talk about their growing family. Meghan and Harry announced in early February that they were expecting another child. This announcement came after Meghan opened up in late November about how she suffered a miscarriage in July. Now the couple is sharing more news about their new baby, announcing that they're having a little girl. They're overjoyed, saying, quote, "To have any child, any one or any two would have been amazing, but to have a boy and then a girl, what more could you ask for? Now we've got our family. We've got the 4 of us, our 2 dogs." Also on the topic of their growing family, the couple also said that after their new daughter, they'll be done having kids, saying that 2 is enough for them. At number 5, Prince Charles. Harry and Meghan's decision to step back from the royal family wasn't welcomed by all. Many news sources criticized their decision, and many of them reported that this was a surprise to the royal family as well, as people said that they blindsided the Queen with their announcement, but according to Harry, that was far from true. Harry said that over a 2-year period, he had conversation about his and Meghan's departure from the royal family. Harry said that he had 3 conversations about it with his grandmother and 2 conversations with his father. Eventually, Harry's dad, Prince Charles, stopped taking Harry's phone calls. He believed it's because he started taking matters into his own hands and his father didn't like that. But Harry said that this needed to be done, saying, quote, "I needed to do this for my family. This is not a surprise to anybody. It's really sad that it's gotten to this point, but I've got to do something for my mental health, for my wife's, and for Archie's as well, because I could see where this was headed." Their departure from the royal family created a lot of tension, but from what they've said about their decision to leave, I don't think they would have changed anything. At number 4, silenced. Anyone who knows Meghan Markle knows that she's an outspoken person. She stands up for what she believes in, and she uses her voice to advocate for herself and others. So to see that she spent a long time in silence, people wondered if this was her choice or if she was being forced to stay quiet. During their interview, Meghan said that she was being silenced by the royals. Meghan spoke out about how she's always valued her independence and how she's always been outspoken about women's rights, saying how ironic it is that she was being silenced even though she's advocated for women using their voices. From the moment their relationship went public, Meghan was given clear instructions to always say no comment, and that those close to her were also told the same thing. She also said that the idea that the royals were protecting her quickly faded once she and Harry were married, saying, quote, "That was hard to reconcile because it was only once we were married and everything started to worsen that I came to understand that not only was I not being protected, but they were willing to lie to protect other members of the family. They weren't willing to tell the truth to protect me and my husband." Though it's taken a while, at least Meghan is now free to speak her truth. At number 3, mental health. After hearing Meghan and Harry open up about their grievances with the royal family, it's understandable that they would feel the effects of this family stress on different levels. For Meghan, things were especially hard for her as during her interview, she shared how her mental health was deeply affected. Meghan opened up saying that she contemplated taking her own life. Shortly after marrying Harry and settling into their new life, the pressures of the media and the harsh scrutiny she was facing took a big toll on her, as she said, quote, "I just didn't want to be alive anymore. That was a clear and real and frightening and constant thought," end quote. Meghan also said that she spoke to another senior member of the royal family about seeking help, and they advised against it, saying that doing so would reflect badly on the royal family. Meghan felt lost, hopeless, and trapped, but she needed to open up about her thoughts, so she turned to her husband for comfort, saying, quote, "I was ashamed to say it at the time and ashamed to have to admit it to Harry, but I knew that if I didn't say it, then I would do it." At number 2, baby Archie. Before Meghan and Harry's son Archie was born, there were reportedly concerns over what he would look like, mainly his skin. Harry and Meghan opened up about the many concerns and conversations they had with members of the royal family over how dark Archie's skin would be. Meghan said that members of the royal family would approach Harry about what that would mean or look like if their son had dark skin. They refused to name those who expressed these concerns, but this all brings more attention to the discrimination that Meghan and Archie have faced. These concerns were also being raised at the same time that the royals announced that Archie would not be given security nor a royal title, and one has to wonder if that was an intentional decision. Now, I'm not going to put my personal thoughts onto this specific matter, but I will say that this is incredibly hurtful and makes me really mad to hear. I, like Meghan, am biracial, and to hear that her child was already facing colorism because she is half black is so disgusting. Finally, number 1, secret wedding. Meghan also opened up about her marriage to Prince Harry, saying that she naively entered the royal marriage. Meghan said that it wasn't something that she thought of or researched. Their wedding was a grand occasion that Meghan wasn't expecting, so in an effort to bring things back down to basics, she and Harry actually got married in secret 3 days before their big televised wedding. Meghan told Oprah that 3 days before their wedding, she and Harry contacted the Archbishop of Canterbury, and he performed a small ceremony in the couple's backyard because the grand televised wedding was, quote, "more for everybody else." They got to take a moment for themselves to make a special moment out of a chaotic mess, and I love that for them. Meghan Markle continued the American tradition of destroying the British monarchy by spilling tea, and I'm here for it.
Starting things off at number 10, who asked about the baby's skin color? We may never know who it was, although a lot of people have been making assumptions of their own. When it was revealed that someone in the royal family had questions, or possibly even concerns about how dark the skin of Harry and Meghan's unborn baby would be, I mean, people were speechless. I can't even comprehend how that's even a thought, let alone something someone actually says. With that being said, although Meghan refused to outright expose who said what, more information has since come to light. Following the premiere of the interview, Oprah appeared on CBS this morning to shed more light on some of what was said. Specifically speaking about this incident, she said that Harry wanted to make sure, I quote, "I knew, and if I had an opportunity to share, that it was not his grandma, the Queen, nor his grandfather, Prince Philip, that were a part of those conversations." Another source allegedly told ITV royal editor Chip Ship, which is a fantastic name, that might not be his real name, but it's a great name, that it wasn't the Queen or Duke of Edinburgh, I quote, "and that only leaves 2 family members and their spouses. The 2 people you're left with are Prince Charles or his brother Prince William or their wives. It's pretty serious. That's kind of where it's left. Moving on to number 9, they left because of racism. It wasn't the only reason, but definitely a big part of why the couple decided they no longer wanted to live in the UK in general. When directly asked if they left due to racism, Harry's response was, I quote, "It was a large part of it." Harry went on to explain that a friend of his who was close to British editors told them that the couple would have to deal with their fair share of racism. At first, Harry thought it was just the tabloids, but his friend told him it was all of the UK. As per Harry, his friend said, I quote, "Please don't do this with the media. They will destroy your life. You need to understand that the UK is very bigoted." Harry replied to his friend, "The UK is not bigoted. The UK press is bigoted, specifically the tabloids. Is that what you mean?" Harry insisted the UK wasn't bigoted as a whole, but went on to say, I quote, "But unfortunately, if the source of information is inherently corrupt, or racist, or biased, then that filters out the rest of society." On to number 8, the royal family wanted Meghan to continue acting. It seems from the get-go, Harry knew there would be issues in regards to his relationship with Meghan. After the two would marry in May of 2018, there were apparently conversations about how she would be able to contribute. Harry explained, I quote, "That was right at the beginning when she wasn't going to get security, when members of my family were suggesting that she carries on acting because there was not enough money to pay for her, and all this sort of stuff. There were some real obvious signs before we even got married that this was going to be really hard." Now, I mean, I like to think that the royal family has more than enough money that they can afford to pay for one more person, but I mean, hey, what do I know? In September of 2020, the pair announced they'll be starting their own production company and even signed a deal with Netflix. However, Harry insisted this wasn't something they had planned prior to the pandemic. On to number 7, Meghan's father lied about speaking with the tabloids. After explaining to Oprah about how the tabloids spent a year trying to track her father down, even going as far as offering people money to find his address, she spoke about how she felt betrayed by him. Meghan explained how after finding out where he lived, reporters moved in next door or across from him and started to send him gifts. Then the week of her wedding, Thomas teamed up with a local photographer to stage a photo shoot with intentions of making it appear candid, I guess, and selling the images to tabloids. TMZ then reported he wouldn't be attending the wedding because he didn't want to embarrass the family after he was caught for setting up the photo shoot in the first place. Meghan explained how the press had known for a month that her father wouldn't be attending the wedding, but waited to release the story last minute, I quote, because they wanted to create drama. When she had asked her father if he had spoke to the tabloids, he denied doing so, and Meghan recalled saying, "I just need you to tell me, and if you tell me the truth, we could help you." She finished off, and he wasn't able to do that. Number 6, the Queen was too busy for them. After their announcement to step down, Harry said that the Queen started to have less time for him and Meghan, explaining, I quote, "That announcement that we put out on the 8th of January in 2020, the contents of that was put into a letter to the institution, to my father, which was then shared at the end of December while we were in Canada. But then we get back on the 6th. After explaining how the Queen had invited the pair to meet with her to chat, she abruptly rescheduled. Harry explained, I quote, "The moment we landed in the UK, I got a message from my private secretary, Fionn, at the time. She was cutting and pasting a message from the Queen's private secretary, basically saying, I quote, please pass on to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex that he cannot come to Norfolk. The Queen is busy. She's busy all week." Harry then personally called his grandmother, who said she wasn't aware of any previous plans. I quote, "I said I was thinking about coming anyway, but I hear you're now busy." And she said, "Yes, there's something in my diary that I didn't know I had." And I said, "Well, what about the rest of the week?" And she said, "Well, that's busy now as well." Okay, I didn't want to push because I kind of knew what was going on. After Oprah suggested being the Queen, she should have the power to reschedule, Harry disagreed, explaining, "When you're the head of the firm, there are people around you that give you advice. And what has also made me really sad is some of that advice has been really bad." Halfway now at 5, the family didn't offer Meghan any support. Months leading up to the wedding and even years after, the British media and tabloids specifically and consistently appeared to attack Meghan. In the interview, Oprah showed a few comparisons of headlines made about Kate Middleton doing the exact same thing as Meghan, getting praise, while Meghan would get the complete opposite. For example, when Kate was eating an avocado, it was exciting for some reason, but when Meghan did it, it was contributing to drought, murder, and other awful things. I'm fully serious. It's genuinely insane how they went after it. And given that she was the newest member of the family and already having a tough time as is, you'd hope those around her, literally, would offer support. Unfortunately, as for Meghan, they didn't, and that was yet another big reason for the pair deciding to leave. Harry specifically spoke about how it hurt him to see his family pretty much turn a blind eye to everything at a time when the media was even spreading blatant lies. Not only did they ask for the palace to ask the media to ease off, but as Harry put it, I quote, "The way that I saw it was, there was a way of doing things, but for us, for this union and the specifics around her race, there was an opportunity, many opportunities, for my family to show some public support." It even got to the point that British Parliament spoke out against what many refer to as colonial undertones in the press about Meghan, yet the family still remained silent. At number 4, Meghan was stuck. Something I never really thought of, but I guess is just the way it goes. When you're a royal, you can't just come and go as you please. During the interview, Meghan told Oprah how once she became a part of the family and royals, she was instructed to hand over her keys, passport, and driver's license. To say that she was literally stuck to the point that even if she wanted to go to a local hospital or doctor or whoever to speak with, she wasn't able to do so. Given the struggles Meghan was dealing with and knowing that she wasn't getting support from those around her, aside from Harry and maybe a few others, it was pretty shocking to find out she had no way out. Number 3, Tyler Perry offered support. Following the news that the royal family wouldn't be providing security for Harry, Meghan, or Archie, the new family was genuinely concerned for their safety. Given that Harry is still a prince, the family didn't understand why the firm was taking away his security. We're not talking any regular security, but like the top dogs of the UK, like Secret Service, that kind of security. At the time, they were living in Canada. The media pretty much told everyone their exact location, and they were fearful of what may happen. This was also during the height of our pandemic, so things were really going haywire. That's when Perry stepped in, offering his LA home to the family for 3 months, as well as his own security, while Harry, Meghan, and Archie all figured out their plans moving forward. At number 2, the family hasn't apologized. Given how things have played out over the last few months and years, Oprah decided to ask where the family currently stands. After all the rumors, tabloids, and BS that was floating around, how have things ended up? Specifically, Oprah said, I quote, "You've had these conversations with your family members. They know why you left. Has anybody said, I'm sorry you had to make that move, or I'm sorry that you felt you had to do that because you felt we weren't supporting you?" In response, Harry explained, I quote, "No, sadly not. The feeling is that this was our decision. Therefore, the consequences are on us. And despite 3 years of us asking for help and visualizing how this might end, it's been really hard." Now, regardless of how you feel about all of this, I will say it is sad to see a family appear to break up right before our eyes, and hopefully they can reconcile before the media starts pushing more false narratives. Just saying, there's 3 sides to every story, and I just hope that the media isn't the one kind of spreading the narrative across the world, is all I'm saying. At number 1, Meghan confided in one of Princess Diana's best friends. During the interview, Harry was asked how his mother, Princess Diana, would feel about how everything played out. To which he replied, I quote, "I think she would feel very angry with how this has panned out and very sad. But ultimately, all she'd ever want for us is to be happy." After talking about the similarities between his mother's situation compared to him and Meghan, Meghan then spoke about how one of Diana's closest friends was one of the only people there for her when she was in a dark place. Markle explained, I quote, "One of the people that I reached out to, who's continued to be a friend and confidant, was one of my husband's mom's best friends. One of Diana's best friends. Because it's like, who else could understand what it's actually like on the inside?" Now, obviously, aside from the fact that it's like very off-putting when someone from the family raised concerns about their unborn child's skin tone, there were a handful of other reasons as to why the two made their decision. After announcing their decision to step down back in January of 2020, the last year or so has seen a lot of what's happened unravel right before our eyes. Although the two have appeared on other shows to speak about what's going on, most notably Harry being on James Corden's Late Late Show, it seems this interview with Oprah was the tell-all that was necessary for the general public to understand what's really going on behind closed doors. Over the course of the interview, the two touched on a handful of issues they had, but it seems one of the biggest factors pushing Harry to ultimately leave the royal family would be his late mother Diana. Now, Harry has stated he's still family. The Queen has also stated the same. With that being said, there wasn't a halfway out the door option. It was either all or nothing, and the family chose nothing. Going back to Harry's mother, Diana, who was killed in a car crash while paparazzi chased her car, it seems Harry was fearful that history would repeat itself. For those of you unaware, Princess Diana was married to Prince Charles and gave birth to Harry and William. Diana and Charles would split, and the two would go their separate ways, with Diana still being a very prominent figure in the media and the world, even though she was technically no longer a part of the royal family. However, the year following the divorce, Diana, her partner at the time, Dodi Fayed, and the car's driver, Henry Paul, all died in a car accident while the driver was trying to flee from paparazzi chasing them. And it seems when asked what his mother would think of his current situation, Harry reflected and admitted she's one of the main reasons he decided to step away from the family in the first place. He explained, I quote, "Touching back on when you asked me what my mom would think of this, I think she saw it coming, and I felt her presence throughout this whole process. For me, I'm just really relieved and happy to be sitting here with you, with my wife by my side, because I can't begin to imagine what it must have been like for her to go through this process by herself all those years ago. My biggest concern was history repeating itself." Although Harry saw a lot of similarities between his mother's situation and Meghan's, he felt that his wife's situation was escalated due to racial tensions and social media. In a previous interview with James Corden, Harry would admit that the media did push him away, explaining, I quote, "We all know what the British press can be like, and it was destroying my mental health. I was like, this is toxic, so I did what any husband and what any father would do. However, it wasn't just his own mental health that was being negatively affected. If you've seen the interview with Oprah, then you know the struggles Meghan was dealing with as well. As I previously touched on, at one point, Harry was worried that his wife would end up with the same fate of his late mother, passing at a young age due to the pressures of the media. Now, whether it be from physically trying to escape them or the mental toll it takes on a person, that was simply not a chance Harry was willing to take. And although Harry admitted to the media being toxic and affecting him, it seems Meghan really got the worst of it, leading to some pretty scary thoughts. At one time, Meghan was at such a low point, she was even thinking about taking her own life. Speaking with Oprah, she explained, I quote, "I didn't know who to even turn to in that. And one of the people that I reached out to, who has continued to be a friend and a confidant, was one of my husband's mom's best friends. One of Diana's best friends. Because it's like, who else could understand what it's actually like on the inside?" I think it's quite clear based on the interviews and information that has been coming out on a regular basis that being part of the royal family is more than just family. As they put it themselves, there's the family side of things, then the enterprise, or firm as other sources have referred to it. Just like anything, it seems the royal family, whether it be their many endeavors or the brand itself, has very strict rules and codes of conduct, just like any other business. And it seems over the years, Harry and Meghan made the decision that this business is not one they want to be a part of, nor one they want their new family to be a part of. Although there was likely a handful of issues and reasons that led to their decision, it seems one of the main factors for them leaving is Harry fearing for his family's life and safety. And although I don't have any children or a wife of my own, I could wholeheartedly say there's nothing I respect more than that decision. Now, as always, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on this one. How do you feel about the whole thing? I'm not one to keep up with it all that much, but from what I do know, I mean, yikes.
Coming in at number 10, play Monopoly. Now here's something that we all take for granted. Believe it or not, but reportedly the royal family is not even allowed to have a board game night. As crazy as it sounds, back in 2008, Prince Andre, Duke of York, who is Prince Charles' younger brother, is where this all started. Apparently the family was banned from playing Monopoly specifically after one game became too vicious, and as you can imagine, that kind of erratic behavior is discouraged because it doesn't exactly fall under, well, royal etiquette. So the next time you think that your board game is just getting a little too heated, just consider yourself lucky that you're still able to play that game. Coming in at number 9, wear a dress with no stockings. Way back when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle first announced their engagement, a royal expert came out and said that there was a major issue with Meghan's outfit. Why, you ask? Well, it appears she had broken an old rule that says all members of the royal family must wear stockings under their dress. The expert went on to tell Insider.com, "You never see a royal without their nude stockings. Meghan, from what I can see from the engagement photographs, it doesn't look like she was wearing tights or stockings. I would say that's really the only hard, steadfast rule in terms of what the Queen requires." This expert, though, also noted that Markle has her own personal style and that probably would not disappear once she became an official royal. And now with their departure, it looks like Meghan isn't going to have to care about these rules anymore, regardless of this royal expert's disdain for her outfit choice. Coming in at number 8, get political. Now, despite what many may think, the royal family hasn't actually held any political power for quite some time now. They are mainly just there as a symbol of the history of the UK. In addition to this, though, once you are married to a royal, you are not allowed to be active in politics. In fact, the royal family has to refrain from participating in most political events. They can't vote and, as I mentioned, run for any form of public office. They're basically just the penguins from Madagascar. Every day is just smile and wave, boys, smile and wave. Technically, they are allowed to vote, but they choose not to because it would be considered unconstitutional. By not voting, they at least remain politically neutral, which is meant to help keep up the appearance of the royal family's role with the general public. Coming in number 7, signing autographs. Now this one kind of makes sense considering the fact that for security reasons alone, someone having a royal signature could do a lot of damage. Usually royal family members like Kate Middleton are more than happy to greet members of the public during her royal engagements. However, if they ask for an autograph, she has been known to politely decline. Prince Charles is said to tell people that he's sorry and that they don't allow him to do that. They, the ominous they. Although funny enough, Meghan Markle actually broke this rule when she signed the autograph book of 10-year-old Caitlin Clark with a heart and a smiley face. At least it was sweet. Coming in at number 6, eat shellfish. Can you imagine being told what to eat? I just can't imagine being banned from eating certain foods that I want to try because of the off chance that I could get sick from whatever it is. In the case of shellfish and meat cooked rare, the royal family are warned to steer clear over fears they will be poisoned. Shellfish typically does pose a higher risk for food poisoning, but I feel like the lack of fish may only be depleting them of healthy fats and nutrients versus protecting against a potential attack on their stomachs. Additionally, the royal family was advised not to eat shellfish because of the possibility of allergic reactions. Apparently Queen Elizabeth still abides by this rule, but Prince Charles on the other hand is known to enjoy shellfish every now and then. Coming in number 5, bright nail polish. In addition to the royal family's strict dress code, there is also rules regarding nail polish and colors you're allowed to use and ones that they are told to avoid. Royals are ordered to steer clear of bright or dark shades, although the Queen is said to prefer the light pink ballet slipper shade from Essie. For nearly 30 years actually, Queen Elizabeth has kept up with a manicure regimen that depends on that ballet slipper nail polish. Kate Middleton wore a similar shade for her wedding to Prince William in 2011, but for the most part she is seen without any nail polish at all, which is less about preference and more about abiding by these strict rules that the royals have to follow. Coming in at number 4, take fan selfies. Here is something that we definitely take for granted. Just simply taking a selfie can become a huge ordeal for any member of the royal family. Apparently Meghan Markle actually spilled the tea on this little rule as she told a fan that they are not allowed to do selfies while embarking on her first royal engagement. The main reason for this is that a selfie requires you turning your back on a royal, which they say us commoners are never supposed to do. Plus, being that close in proximity to one of the royal family members, it does become an issue of security again. Although from time to time it seems as though some royals choose to break this rule. Prince William, for example, happily agreed to a selfie with a fan while he was at the Commonwealth Arena in 2013. Coming in number 3, eat after the Queen. I for one am a bit of a slow eater, so the Queen and I would probably get into a lot of arguments if this is true. So on top of the foods that Queen Elizabeth II won't allow at Buckingham Palace, she also has a very strict rules when it comes to etiquette at dinner. After the Queen takes her last bite of food, absolutely no one at the table is allowed to eat anymore. Apparently this rule was a big pain in the butt though when it came to eating with Queen Victoria. She was notoriously difficult to deal with because she was a fast eater who gobbled down a lot of food. Although at 94 years old it's quite possible that Queen Elizabeth isn't going to be filling up her plate and downing her food, so you might be safe. Coming in number 2, sit with legs crossed. This one is such a basic action that we all do from time to time, and yet sitting with one leg crossed over the other is said to be very frowned upon in the royal family. The very camera-friendly pose that Kate Middleton does was even termed the Duchess slant. This is meant to describe the way that she sits with her knees and ankles together slanted to one side. They say that this allows her to keep a better poise and posture. Although this isn't necessarily an official rule that they have, they definitely do not like to see it when those legs are crossed. Which is likely why, much like Princess Diana, we never see Kate Middleton crossing her legs. They are always side by side, slightly tilted and to the side. I mean, it's just such a minute detail, but one that they definitely put a lot of focus on. Last but certainly not least, our number 1 spot, be on social media. So far, Princess Eugenia is the only member of the younger generation of royals to actually have a personal social media account. Everyone else must go through the Kensington Palace's official account if they want to share any photos. Meghan Markle even noticeably went missing from Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram after just getting engaged to Prince Harry. Then in January, the Kensington Palace released a statement saying, "Miss Markle is grateful to everyone who has followed her social media accounts over the years. However, as she has not used them for some time, she has taken the decision to close them." Sure, that's why she closed them. You see how sneaky this royal communications team is? It's a little bit sus.
And at number 10, Prince Charles is not Harry's real dad. Ever since Princess Diana exposed that she had cheated on Prince Charles with a man named James Hewitt during her marriage with Charles, many people have speculated if Charles is actually Harry's real father. In 1995, Diana exposed the affair in a tell-all interview with journalist Martin Bashir on the BBC program Panorama, where she admitted to having a 5-year-long relationship with Hewitt, who is in the military. The main basis of the rumor seems to be the fact that both Hewitt and Prince Harry have red hair, while neither Charles or Diana did. However, both Diana and Charles have red hair in their families. Since the rumor picked up steam after Diana passed, Hewitt has been adamant in the press that he is not Harry's father, and said that Harry was born before their relationship even started. However, many don't believe the timeline that we've been told of Diana and James's relationship, and claim it could have been altered by the family. And at number 9, the Queen's secret cousins. In 2011, a documentary called The Queen's Hidden Cousins exposed that Queen Elizabeth II actually had 2 cousins that were never known to the public. This is because both cousins had mental disabilities. Back in the 1940s, when the women were born, these conditions were not as well understood as they are today, and the royal family felt that it would be an embarrassment to the family if they were revealed. The cousins, named Nerissa and Catherine Bowes-Lyon, were consequently left in a mental institution for decades alone, with nobody in the royal family coming to visit them, because most people in the family didn't even know they existed. In the documentary, nurses who oversaw them confirmed that no members of the royal family ever visited the sisters, and also stated the sisters were unable to articulate speech but had a great mischievous spirit. Many of the claims in the documentary were disputed by the family, however. And at number 8, Diana was terribly unhappy. When Diana and Charles got married, it looked like a picture-perfect wedding. However, we learned many years later that her time in the marriage was horrible, and she struggled with many mental health issues during the marriage. After her passing, private notes and taped telephone conversations painted the real picture of the marriage, including at one point when she had an eating disorder. She even spoke of how she contemplated taking her own life at times because of how unhappy she was. She even said that she threw herself down the stairs when she was 3 months pregnant with Prince William as a cry for help from the family. Apparently after it happened, the Queen came out and was, quote, absolutely horrified, shaking. She was so frightened. And at number 7, Princess Anne's dog. Princess Anne, who was the only daughter of Queen Elizabeth, got in her own scandal after her beloved dog bit a young boy. Apparently in 2002, Princess Anne and her husband were putting their dogs into a car after walking them in a park, and one of the dogs, an English Bull Terrier, escaped, then attacked a boy who was riding a bike. The parents of the boy took legal action, and Princess Anne was required to go to court and ended up being ordered to pay a fine, which was the first time a senior member of the royal family had been criminally charged. Usually the dog would also be put down in these circumstances, but it was allowed to live. However, the following year, that same dog struck again and killed one of the Queen's corgis. And at number 6, Prince Harry caught using racial slurs. In 2009, a huge scandal erupted after Prince Harry was exposed for using racial slurs. The most peculiar part, however, was that it seemed that Prince Harry was the one that actually exposed himself. The video showed him using offensive language when speaking about his army platoon whilst they were waiting to be deployed from Sandhurst Military Academy. It looked like Harry shot the video himself. You can hear Harry say offensive language and racially insensitive terms. After the video went viral, Harry was forced to make a public apology. However, the damage was already done. There was also another scandal where Harry dressed up as Germany's leader during the Second World War for a Halloween party, so neither incident was a one-time thing. Halfway number 5, Meghan Markle's mental health struggles. After it was announced that Harry and Meghan would be stepping back from the royal family, many people wondered the real reason as to why. Meghan ended up revealing the truth in her tell-all interview with Oprah. Apparently, Meghan was struggling with her mental health, and the palace did not get her the help that she was desperately seeking, even saying at one point that she was thinking of seriously harming herself. She said in the interview, quote, "I've never felt this way before, and I need to go somewhere to get help." But after she discussed her concerns with the palace, Meghan said, quote, "I was told that I couldn't get help, that it wouldn't be good for the institution. And when it got to the worst point, Harry made the decision to leave the royal family and get Meghan the help that she needed." And at number 4, Princess Beatrice dated a convict. The royal family are very particular about who they date, because dating the wrong person could be a publicity nightmare. And this is exactly what happened with Princess Beatrice. In 2006, the princess actually dated a convicted criminal. The man named Paolo Luiso was arrested for manslaughter after he beat a man to his death. However, this charge was later dropped and Luiso was put on probation. Although the palace wasn't thrilled about Beatrice's man, the Duchess of York released a statement at that time saying they trusted their daughter to make the right decision. And at number 3, the royal family might not be royal. This one is a more far-fetched theory rather than a real secret, but there are rumors that the current royal family does not actually have royal blood. This is because in 2012, more than 500 years after Richard III's death, his remains were discovered and scientists confirmed it was actually him. But the issue is that his DNA did not match any of the current members of the royal family. Scientists described it as a, quote, false paternity event, with them thinking that an affair that happened many years ago is what broke up the royal bloodline. And this would mean the current royal family is not actually related to the past royals. And at number 2, Tampon Gate. This is not only scandalous, but mostly incredibly embarrassing to all parties involved. As we all know now, Prince Charles and his current wife Camilla had a lengthy affair for most of the time that both of them were married. They also called each other very frequently. One of these calls was leaked in 1992, and it was not pretty. The long exchange divulged some details I'm sure the pair was hoping would remain a secret forever. While the two were talking, the conversation went like, quote, "Charles, oh my god, I'll just live inside your trousers or something. It would just be much easier." Then Camilla said, "What are you going to turn into, a pair of knickers? Or you're gonna come back as a pair of knickers?" Charles then replied, quote, "Or God forbid, a Tampax, just my luck." Then Camilla added, quote, "You're a complete idiot." Oh, what a wonderful idea. Obviously, they were just joking around, but I don't think anyone has looked at the couple the same way since. And in at number 1, no schooling for Meghan. Another secret that Meghan revealed in the Oprah interview was that she was not given any sort of schooling by the royal family once she became a royal. She told Oprah that she was dedicated to learn, but quote, there was no guidance. Adding, quote, "Unlike what you see in the movies, there's no class on how to speak, how to cross your legs, how to be royal. There's none of that training that might exist for other members of the family. That was not something that was offered to me." She even added that she took it upon herself to learn the proper way to do things online before royal commitments, saying, quote, "Even down to the national anthem. No one thought to say, oh, you're American, you're not gonna know that," Markle said. Many people wondered if it was a common thing for royals to not be educated like this, or if Meghan was given different treatment because of her background.
Speaking specifically on how his mental health as well as Meghan's Meghan's was affected by everything they were going through, as well as the racist headlines, it seems this interview was yet again another tell-all, shedding light on how things went down behind closed doors. In Harry's own words, I quote, "Within the first 8 days of our relationship being made public was when they said Harry's girl is almost straight out of Compton, and that her exotic DNA will be thickening the royal blood," referring to headlines about Meghan dating back to 2016. Harry also spoke on how the media attention and flashing lights that he saw from paparazzi brought him back memories of his mother, Princess Diana, who unfortunately lost her life in a fatal car crash while attempting to flee the paparazzi. In their previous interview with Oprah, Harry spoke on how he felt, or at least saw similarities, in the way that the media was treating his wife as they did his mother, and that one of his greatest fears would be losing Meghan the same way he lost his mother. It seems at points that almost was the case. As we know, Meghan also spoke about a time in which she was in a very dark place and was having thoughts of taking her own life. As Harry explained, when he needed help the most, I quote, "I felt completely helpless. I thought my family would help, but every single ask, request, warning, whatever it is, just got met with total silence or total neglect. We spent 4 years trying to make it work. We did everything we possibly could to stay there, doing the role and doing the job, but Meghan was struggling." The second episode of the series includes footage of Harry and Meghan, who at the time was 6 months pregnant with their firstborn, attending a charity event in 2019. Harry explained that prior to the event, Meghan had shared with him her thoughts about ending her own life and how she would do it. Harry explained, I quote, "The thing that stopped her seeing it through was how unfair it would be on me after everything that happened to my mom, and now to be put in a position of losing another woman in my life with a baby inside of her." However, when he went to his family, he said he felt ashamed and angry, further explaining, I quote, "I'm also really angry with myself that we're stuck in this situation. I was ashamed that it had gotten this bad. I was ashamed to go to my family because, to be honest with you, like a lot of other people my age could probably relate to, I know that I'm not going to get from my family what I need." And with the birth of his newborn, Harry then decided to shift his priorities, putting his family before anything else. I quote Harry saying, "I then had a son who I would far rather be solely focused on rather than every time I look in his eyes wondering whether my wife is going to end up like my mother and I'm going to have to look after him myself. That was one of the biggest reasons to leave, feeling trapped and feeling controlled through fear, both by the media and by the system itself, which never encouraged talking about this kind of trauma. Certainly now I will never be bullied into silence." Now with all that being said, it seems the series isn't so much focused on necessarily exposing or taking down the royal family, but more so highlighting the importance of focusing on one's mental health as much as we do physical health. It just so happens that the royal family and how things played out were a big factor leading to both how Meghan and Harry felt, thus affecting their mental health. With that being said, Harry admitted that following the loss of his mother, that's when his struggles intensified. I quote him saying, "I'm one of the first people to recognize that firstly, I had a fear of, when I first went to therapy, a fear of losing. 4 years of therapy for an individual that never thought that they would ever need to do therapy that's a long time. I wasn't in an environment where it was encouraged to talk about it either. That was sort of like squashed." He then wanted to explain that he would rely on external sources and alcohol to mask the pain that at the time he didn't even realize he was dealing with. All in all, Harry capped off by explaining that he doesn't want to continue this vicious cycle of brushing things aside and not dealing with them head on. That's how it gets passed down to generations, which he feels happened to him. He explained, "My father used to say to me when I was younger, he used to say both to William and I, well, it was like that for me, so it's going to be like that for you. That doesn't make sense. Just because you suffered, it doesn't mean that your kids have to suffer." He goes on to say it's actually quite the opposite. You do everything that you can to learn from your mistakes so your children don't have to suffer. You suffer for them and save them from that pain. In Harry's own words, I quote, "And that's what we will continue to do. Isn't this all about breaking the cycle? Isn't it all about making sure that history doesn't repeat itself? That whatever pain and suffering has happened to you, that you don't pass on." For a more in-depth look at how things went down, check out the 3-episode series, The Me You Can't See, now on Apple Plus. This isn't sponsored, but Apple, if you want to throw me some coins, I kind of just gave you a pretty good shout out.
Number 10, Kate made Meghan cry. During her infamous sit-down interview with Oprah, Meghan spoke about reports that she left Kate in tears leading up to the royal wedding due to a disagreement about the bridesmaid dresses. Meghan said, "The reverse happened, and I don't say that to be disparaging to anyone, because it was a really hard week of the wedding, and she was upset about something, but she owned it and she apologized, and she brought me flowers and a note apologizing." Meghan went on to say, "I don't think it's fair to get into the details of that because she did apologize and I've forgiven her." The Duchess explained that she found it shocking that the story made the headlines several months after the wedding. She said, "I would have never wanted that to come out about her, even though it happened." She also spoke about people pitting them against each other and said, "If you love me, you don't have to hate her, and if you love her, you don't have to hate me," because the media really seems to want a narrative of a hero and a villain. Number 9, the tiara incident. The story of Meghan Markle's wedding tiara is infamous. Basically, Meghan originally wanted to wear a different tiara than the one we all saw on her head during the royal wedding, but Queen Elizabeth denied it. In fact, while the couple was preparing to tie the knot, Queen Elizabeth's dresser, Angela Ursula Kelly refused to travel to Buckingham Palace to let the actress try on the tiara that she wanted to wear for her wedding day. It was a beautiful emerald headdress that was said to have come from Russia, but the history behind it was problematic, as the treasure had found its way into royal hands through sketchy channels and for an undisclosed price in the aftermath of the Russian Revolution. For this reason, the emerald tiara was hardly ever put on public display, and it would have brought scandal to the royal wedding. Prince Harry was not aware of the history, however, and he reportedly flew into a rage when Meghan was told that she couldn't wear it. He tried to intervene and furiously called his grandmother, saying that her royal dresser needs to make this work for his future wife. Number 8. Banned from Balmoral. On September the 8th, the day of Queen Elizabeth's passing, members of the royal family, including Prince Harry, were asked to drop what they were doing to try and visit her bedside. But King Charles reportedly told Harry that Meghan wasn't allowed to accompany him. At the time, the Duke of Sussex was in the middle of a European tour with Meghan, and he had already made plans for them to visit together. The change in plans forced him to miss his flight, arriving late at the castle, and unfortunately, he found out about the Queen's passing only 5 minutes before the announcement was made to the world. Naturally, Harry was extremely upset at Charles for the way that the events unfolded, so he refused an invitation to dine with his father and brother on the night of her passing. He was so furious that Meghan was banned from visiting Balmoral while the Queen was on her deathbed. Number 7. King Charles's comments. During her explosive interview with Oprah Winfrey, the Duchess of Sussex claimed that someone in the family had expressed concern about the complexion of her child's skin. It was then that the allegations started to snowball, and Prince Harry told the Star that the incident happened right at the beginning of the pregnancy and left him a bit shocked. Meghan told Oprah, "In those months when I was pregnant, all around the same time, we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born." Then a royal book by Christopher Anderson revealed that a source close to the family claimed that it was Charles who had made the comment during a conversation over breakfast with his wife Camilla on the day that Meghan and Harry's engagement was announced. He allegedly asked Camilla, "I wonder what the children will look like," and lowering his voice asking, "I mean, what do you suppose their children's complexion might be?" So it wasn't exactly subtle. If you're loving this video so far, please hit that like button, it would really help us out. Number 6. Cold shoulder. The royal editor of Harper's Bazaar, Omid Scobie, revealed that Kate was actually one of the many reasons that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex wanted to leave the royal family. He explained that Meghan felt there wasn't much effort made on Kate's side to look after her during some of the darker moments, particularly during her pregnancy. The controversial Megxit was largely due to the fact that Kate offered zero kindness to Meghan, especially right after she became a new mom. For example, when she tried striking up a conversation with Kate on the 9th of March during the Commonwealth Day celebration in Westminster Abbey, a source told the Star it was a real slap in the face, especially the way Kate gave Meghan the cold shoulder. Meghan tried to take the high road and strike up a conversation, but Kate basically blanked her. William and Kate totally scorned Harry and Meghan. It's got to be the nail in the coffin for that relationship. Number 5. Denied independence. In Meghan's latest interview with the Cut magazine, she talked about being rejected from the royal family and said, "Just by existing, we were upsetting the dynamic of the hierarchy." Meghan feels that her problems stem from her being an American and her desire to ask a lot of questions, which seem to violate an unspoken social norm. She also talked about the fact that there are strict rules in place to keep royals from pursuing independent working lives. She said, "For whatever reason, that is not something that we were allowed to do, even though several other members of the family do that exact thing." In fact, Meghan revealed that she and Harry didn't initially want to leave the royal family at all. Instead, they wanted to continue their work as royals without using taxpayer funding and become completely financially independent, but their request was denied, which is a decision that Meghan still questions to this day. Number 4. Denied royal titles. Meghan and Harry's children have been denied royal titles and will not be granted HRH status. This means that they cannot be referred to as His or Her Royal Highness by order of King Charles. So why were the children denied the titles? The status has customarily been given to the grandchildren of the reigning monarch, and because little Archie and Lilibet are the king's grandchildren, they are technically entitled to the status, but for whatever reason, Charles chose not to allow it. There have now been reports of tense talks between the new king and the Sussexes over the title, and apparently the couple are furious that their children are being left out. It means that little Archie and Lilibet won't be invited to important royal events, won't receive taxpayer-funded salary, and won't be able to have the protection of royal security when they visit the UK. Not only that, but in social situations, no one would be required to bow or curtsy to them when they approach, although Archie and Lilibet might be allowed to use the title Prince and Princess in the near future, which would still be very impressive. Number 3. Birthday tributes. To celebrate Prince Harry, the royal family took to social media to pay tribute for his birthday. While the posts were heartwarming, they all had one thing in common: no mention or photo of Meghan at all. William and Kate posted a throwback photo of them running with Harry in 2017, with the caption, "Wishing a very happy birthday to Prince Harry today." King Charles and Camilla also wished him a happy birthday, using his official title with a solo shot of the red-headed royal, with the caption, "Wishing a very happy birthday to the Duke of Sussex today." Queen Elizabeth also put out the same message and posted a photo of Harry at the Queen's Young Leaders reception at Buckingham Palace in 2017. But some people thought it was a little odd that out of all of the birthday mentions, not a single one included anything about Meghan. Number 2. Platinum Jubilee. Although Meghan and Harry were reportedly both excited and honored to be invited to the Queen's Platinum Jubilee this year, they weren't allowed to take part in the traditional trooping of the colour parade, where the family stands on the palace balcony. Their 2 children, Archie and Lilibet, weren't permitted to be there either. This did seem like a snub on behalf of the royal family, but actually it was all about the royal protocol. The truth is that the Sussexes weren't allowed on the iconic balcony because only royals undertaking official public duties could join the Queen for that appearance, according to Buckingham Palace rules. But according to royal insiders, what created the most tension within the family is their endless tell-alls and defamatory interviews. So in a way, it would be hypocritical of them to be acting all smiles and waving to the crowds from the balcony as if they were all one big happy family. And coming in at number 1, funeral seating. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle did not join Prince William, Kate Middleton, or other family members who sat in the front row at Westminster Abbey in London for Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. Instead, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were squished in a corner at the end of the second row beside Princess Beatrice and her husband. William and Harry, who have had a strained relationship over the past few years, were as far away from each other as possible, separated by the church aisle. Meanwhile, King Charles, Camilla, William, and Kate were all seated in the front row. Not only that, but Meghan and Harry were also separated during the procession, as Harry instead had to walk along with his brother and father. While Meghan arrived at the service alone, she definitely did not go unnoticed. As soon as she was spotted, her look from the service became one of the biggest trends on Twitter.
In at number 10, pregnancy rules. There are tons of specific rules surrounding pregnancy and childbirth for the heirs to the throne. Firstly, all pregnancy announcements are to be announced at the 12-week mark. This was a bit of a problem for Kate because she was pretty sick in the beginning of her pregnancy before it was announced, and because of this she was absent from a lot of public events. However, the royal family ended up deciding to make her announcement earlier to explain her absences. But the rules of course don't stop after that announcement. The royal couple is expected to keep the sex of the baby a secret until they are born, which also means keeping any potential names a secret too. Also, during the pregnancy, the women are not allowed to show any form of discomfort or complaint, with Kate keeping composure through the whole pregnancy. Also, this one's a strange rule, but no baby showers are allowed for some reason. That seems so sad. You'd think that the royal family would have like even more extravagant baby showers, but guess not. And at number 9, dress code. So it's expected that there's gonna be some form of dress code for the women in the family, Kate included. One is that Kate is prohibited from showing any cleavage whatsoever, and is required to avoid all dresses which may be deemed as provocative. This is why all of her clothes are elegant without much skin showing. She's also not allowed to wear any bold patterns or colors. Kate is also not allowed to wear leather, which is something that Kate was seen in often before joining the royal family. Leather boots seem to be her favorite. The rule is that the only leather that can be worn must come from animals that lived humane lives, and since that's difficult to find, the royals generally shy away from the material altogether. Lastly, Kate is also not allowed to take off her coat in public, no matter how hot it gets. Literally no idea why that's a rule, that would just be so uncomfortable. And at number 8, no profit. Before Kate was a royal, she dabbled in professional photography. However, now that she's a royal, she's not allowed to profit off of anything that she does. However, Kate still loves photography in her free time, so when she does take a beautiful photo, the photography is released through the palace and she doesn't make any money from it. And it seems that most of the photos that she takes are of her family, like this beautiful one that was taken of her children. Kate was credited in the caption. And at number 7, no PDA. No PDA is something that most people expect when talking about the royals, but I had no idea just how strict that it was, with the rules being even more strict for anyone who is in direct lineage of the throne. This is why we've seen Harry and Meghan break these rules before, as the rules are looser for them. The Queen finds public displays of affection completely inappropriate. Therefore, all royal couples are prohibited from engaging in any PDA whatsoever. and the royals even consider holding hands a form of intimacy that is not allowed, which is why it's pretty rare to find photos of royals holding hands while out at public events. In at number 6, perfect nails. Being well groomed is an integral part of being a royal, and for women, along with wearing a hat to all daily functions, perfect nails are expected, and Kate is required to keep her hands manicured at all times. The nails cannot be too long or too short, and of course there are restrictions on the colors that are allowed too, with royals like Kate only being able to wear subtle natural tones. And because of this, she wears soft pink and nude nails most of the time. And you guys know that I'm obsessed with my acrylic nails and usually have, fun, bright colors, so this probably would be a rule that I would be most annoyed by. Like, look how cute these are! Just in time for spring. They're very spring color. Have a number 5, strict religion. In order to marry into the royal family, it's expected that newcomers practice the Protestant Anglican religion. And if you're not already a practicing member of that religion, it's required that any new royals adopt this religion in order to be welcomed into the family. Growing up as part of the Middleton family, Kate wasn't particularly religious, but did have ties to the Anglican faith. But she was not Protestant Anglican before becoming a royal, so she participated in a religious confirmation ceremony at the Anglican Church in 2011 in preparation for her wedding to Prince William. It was also assumed that Meghan converted religions as well. And at number 4, strict curtsy rules. This rule applies to all women in the royal family, but it can be tricky to know when you may have to curtsy to someone or they have to curtsy to you. It's all determined based on the person's proximity to the throne. It's tradition that Kate, along with anybody else, curtsies to the Queen the first time that she sees her during any given day as a sign of respect. And even though Kate is wife of the future king, she still must curtsy to other members of the family. According to the rules, she always curtsies to Prince Philip, Prince Charles, and Camilla Parker Bowles, only if Charles is with her, because they all outrank her. But when she isn't with Prince William, she also must curtsy to blood princesses like Princesses Anne, Eugenie, and Beatrice, who were born into royalty. And at number 3, specific chin placement. So this one's a bit strange, but it's how the royals always ensure that they have good posture. One of their golden rules is that a woman's chin must always be parallel to the ground, especially when they are descending stairs. They should also always pose with their chins in the same parallel position. And I'm pretty sure this isn't a real rule that anybody would get in trouble for, but more so a suggestion that will make women look more poised. But honestly, I think I might adopt this rule into my life because I just have a double chin way too often, and this could, maybe prevent that if I'm always like this. Is that parallel? I think so. And at number 2, Kate must wear a hat. One of the most closely followed rules by the royal family is that all royal women must wear a hat when out in public at formal events. It's a royal protocol rule that dates back to the 1950s, when everyone wore hats. And I guess even though times have changed and less people wear them now, they still think it adds to a poised look. And honestly, I agree. The only time you'll see a royal out not wearing a hat is if it's after 6 p.m, when the women are allowed to go bareheaded or wear a tiara if it's something very official. And finally, number 1, forbidden words. The royal family are always trying to look poised and respectful, and because of this, there are some words that they just do not say. And Kate had to learn quickly what these words were. We don't have a complete list, but it seems that the list of words not to use includes toilet, pardon, couch, living room, posh, patio, and perfume. And I truly have no idea why such a posh family would not be able to use the word posh. Maybe they're trying to seem humble or something, who knows? Also, I was really surprised that they're not able to use the word pardon. That seems very strange. Apparently the royals do not like the term for some reason, and instead the word sorry or sorry what should be used instead. Interesting. Also, I know everyone's gonna make fun of the way I just said sorry. That's how I say it, okay? I'm Canadian.
The very first episode begins with an attack on Buckingham Palace's decision not to cooperate with the series, which declares a fresh war on the family and the media. Throughout the series so far, we have had tears from Meghan, of course, and Harry repeatedly comparing her to Princess Diana, claiming both his mother and wife were hunted by the press. Nothing new there. There's also a series of jabs towards Harry's father, King Charles III, as well as his brother Prince William. They spoke once again about alleged racism and unconscious bias in the royal family, which we've heard about time and time again at this point. It seems to me that every interview or documentary they will put out is just going to be more of the same. I mean, they're no longer a part of the royal family world, so they have nothing new to say about it. While the documentary does repeat a lot of things they've discussed before, we do get some new digs from Meghan. In the beginning of the series, Meghan talks about her awkward first meeting of the Queen and what it was like for her to be integrated into the royal family. Meghan met the late Queen for the first time during a lunch at the Royal Lodge shortly after revealing the news
news that she and Harry were dating in 2016. Meghan described the whole occasion as feeling like an antiquated banquet at medieval times, which is a family dinner theater in the US featuring staged medieval-style games, sword fighting, and jousting. The couple talked about how they didn't know the Queen would be at the lunch until moments before, with Meghan claiming she thought the act of curtsying was a joke and not something you actually did. I find that a little hard to believe, but like she's claimed before, she didn't know a thing about the family before joining. During the second episode, Meghan talks a lot about the formality of the royals behind closed doors, saying she was surprised by this. She said, quote, "I was a hugger. Always being a hugger, I didn't realize that this is really jarring for a lot of Brits." Then she added, "I guess I started to understand very quickly that the formality on the outside carried through on the inside. Every time I hear about how underprepared Meghan was for all these royal engagements, I'm like, where the heck was Harry? Like, he really didn't think to maybe give his apparently completely oblivious girlfriend a few pointers before attending?" Anyway, Meghan was surprised that the formality in the family doesn't go away behind closed doors. Then the Duchess admitted that joining the actual royal family was nothing like the 2001 film The Princess Diaries starring Anne Hathaway. There's no class with some person who goes sit like this, cross your legs like this, use this fork, don't do this, curtsy then, wear this kind of hat. It doesn't happen, Meghan shared. Basically, she needed to learn a lot, including the national anthem. Well, again, I'm not sure what she was expecting, and I really can't imagine the family expected her to know everything right away. Meghan also touched on her first Christmas at Sandringham, describing it as amazing due to the fact that she was with a big family like she'd always wanted. Meghan talked about there being constant movement, energy, and fun at that first dinner. Harry added that the royal family seemed incredibly impressed with Meghan during the early days of their relationship. That being said, he also shared that his family thought that the relationship with the former actor would never last. So maybe the family was all good until they discovered she was becoming a permanent member. Harry recalled the family first meeting Meghan, saying they were surprised that the ginger could land such a beautiful woman. He went on to say, "But the fact I was dating an American actress was probably what clouded their judgment more than anything else in the beginning." Meghan blamed the way the UK views Hollywood and being typecast by them. In the third episode, Meghan talked about, shocker, not knowing what a royal walkabout was. It's literally just where royals meet with members of the public who've gathered on the streets. Then they remembered their first walkabout and how Meghan's dress broke and they had to safety pin it, and it was all just so silly and ridiculous. Harry said everybody was just so excited and pleased and happy, and I think people looked at it and went, wow, what a breath of fresh air. Did they, Harry? They also included Meghan's mother, Doria Ragland. She said the last 5 years have been tough, but she's ready to share a little bit of her experience as Meghan's mom. She really didn't spill anything too crazy. Doria discussed her finding out about Meghan and Harry dating and her being excited for Meghan. She also mentioned that as a kid, Meghan was very mature and empathetic, seeing Doria as more of a controlling older sister than a mother. Lastly, Doria talked about how paparazzi would take pictures of deprived neighborhoods in LA like Skid Row, claiming that's where Meghan grew up. I'm not sure why her mother chose to share what she did, but it really didn't add much. Basically, the first 3 episodes just went over how Meghan and Harry met, how Meghan knew nothing about being a royal, and how no one thought they would last. It's like the Oprah interview all over again, except longer, and we've already heard it all before. That being said, I'm tuning in and I will be watching part 2. I personally think the initial hype and fascination over Harry and Meghan versus the royal family is long gone, and this may be the last thing they put out about the family that really gets some traction. This topic can only be talked about for so long, so I'm curious to see what happens after they've shared it all.
Coming in at number 10, when the Queen stands. Most of the rules we're going to be talking about today do apply to many that meet the Queen, and as the title of the video suggests, this is one rule that the rest of the royal family makes sure to follow. The origin of this rule dates back pretty much to the start of the monarchy. You see, during medieval times, monarchs were viewed as having divine status, and because of that, they had to be treated accordingly. During the medieval period, people believed that the monarchs were divinely appointed to rule by God, so as a result, they were sort of seen as gods themselves. Because of this, many of them demanded to be treated as such, which means when the Queen stands, everyone stands. Coming in at number 9, curtsy required. The curtsy, or a bow for men, is often something we see people meeting the Queen or even other royal family members taking part in. Similar to the standing rule, the curtsy is a formality meant to pay your respects to the Queen as well. This was a big topic of conversation actually in that Meghan Markle Oprah interview. Markle said that growing up she had never been exposed to these royal requirements, and so Harry actually had to teach her how to curtsy shortly before meeting his grandmother. Apparently it wasn't even until the drive over to meet the Queen that Harry thought to ask Meghan if she knew how to curtsy. Markle was shocked that the curtsy rule was something that applied to the royal family as well. She said during the interview, "I thought genuinely that was part of what happens outside. I thought that was part of the fanfare. I didn't think that that's what happens inside, and I said, it's your grandmother." He goes, "It's the Queen." Coming in at number 8, the Queen leads. This one is actually kind of sweet, and I'm sure Prince Philip doesn't actually mind. However, since their marriage Her Majesty's husband has always walked a few steps behind her at all times. The pair have been married since 1947, and believe it or not, but there is a very specific reason why he walks behind her. According to a report from Reader's Digest, whenever the royal family is part of a procession, they will enter and are seated in the order of precedence, which basically means they move in the same order as the line of succession to the throne. The order goes Queen Elizabeth II, the Duke of Edinburgh, the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, and so on and so forth. Now, technically speaking, the Prince of Wales should rank higher than Prince Philip, but the Queen is allowed to update the order as she sees fit. Coming at number 9, marriage approval. Believe it or not, but under British law, a royal actually can't get married unless they first get permission from Her Majesty the Queen. This rule comes from the Royal Marriages Act that was first created in 1772. For nearly 250 years, the royal family have all needed to get their bid for marriage approved by the reigning monarch. According to the statute, every marriage or matrimonial contact of any such descendant without such consent first had and obtained shall be null and void to all intents and purposes whatsoever. However, in 2013, there was a slight amendment with the passing of the Succession to the Crown Act. Now, today, only the first 6 royals in line to the throne actually require the monarch's permission to validate their marriage. Coming at number 6, strict dress code. Some people dream of being a princess or a queen for all the beautiful and fancy clothes that you get to wear. However, it's not all tiaras and tea in the royal family. They also have to follow a very strict dress code and are even required to always have an all-black ensemble when they travel. Everything from dark nail polish to miniskirts are absolutely unacceptable. The royal family wants to uphold this polished look, and so because of this, everyone must dress conservatively. In the case of the all-black ensemble, this is something they plan for in the unfortunate event of the passing of a family member while traveling. Every single member of the family must always carry this with them so that they are dressed respectfully when seen in public after the announcement. Coming at number 5, no nicknames allowed. Now, this one seems really particular, but again, this royal rule is put in place to show respect to other members of the royal family. Royalty are expected to be addressed by their full name, which means their given name rather than a nickname given to them by their family. Additionally, it's usually expected that they also use the royal family member's title when addressing them. For example, when William married Kate, she immediately started being referred to as Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge. Imagine having to always address your wife like that. Excuse me, Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, what do you want for dinner tonight? Now, with that said though, there are some royals who have broken this rule since they were young. For example, Harry's given name is actually Henry, or to make it even more formal, he should be addressed as Prince Henry Charles Albert David of Windsor, but he usually just goes by Prince Harry Duke of Sussex. Coming at number 4, no foreign throne sitting. When the Queen got to visit the set of Game of Thrones in Northern Ireland, she unfortunately had to pass up what could have been possibly one of the greatest photo ops in history, and it's all because of an obscure royal rule. Even though it's a fictional throne, the Queen is still never allowed to sit on a foreign throne, which is a very esoteric rule to have, but there's a reason for it. This is again an old custom that shows respect to your own throne as well as the monarch's throne that they may be presented with. Although according to actress Maisie Williams, who portrayed Arya Stark in Game of Thrones, the Iron Throne may have just been too uncomfortable. Maisie recounted that day saying, she sort of looked at it and said, that doesn't look very comfortable. And while no one really asked her to take a seat, Williams added, we all just sort of smiled and were like, is she gonna do it? Coming in number 3, no autographs allowed. Now this one kind of makes sense considering the fact that for security reasons alone, someone having a royal signature could do a lot of damage, especially the Queen. Usually royal family members like Kate Middleton are more than happy to greet members of the public during their royal engagements. However, if she has ever asked for an autograph, she has been known to politely decline. Prince Charles is also said to tell people that he's sorry that they don't allow him to do that. Although funny enough, Meghan Markle actually did break this rule when she signed a fan's autograph book with just a heart and a smiley face. I guess they considered that breaking the rule. Shows you how strict these are. Coming in number 2, no shellfish. Now I brought this point up before in another video, but it still blows my mind. So here it is again. Can you imagine being told what to eat? I just can't imagine being banned from eating certain foods that I want to try because of the off chance that I might get sick from whatever it is. In the case of shellfish and meat cooked rare, the royal family are warned to steer clear over fears they will be poisoned. Shellfish typically does pose a higher risk for food poisoning, but I feel like the lack of fish may only be depleting them of healthy fats and nutrients versus, protecting them against a potential attack on their stomachs. Additionally, the royal family was advised not to eat shellfish because of the possibility of allergic reactions, which I can understand. Apparently though, Queen Elizabeth still abides by this rule, but Prince Charles on the other hand is known to enjoy shellfish every now and again. And coming in at our number 1 spot, heirs fly separate. This point here actually shocked me a bit, but when you think about the worst case scenario, I get why they would want this rule in place. This rule was first made back when jetting off in an airplane was a much more risky way to travel. Because of this, officials decided that there needed to be measures in place just on the off chance that there was a fatal accident on the aircraft. If the entire royal lineage was on that plane, it could be really bad for the royal family. So ever since then, the king or queen or their heirs were never allowed to fly together on the same plane, which means that the Queen, Prince Charles, Prince William, and Prince George should never all board a jet at the same time. However, in recent years, Her Majesty has relaxed this rule a bit because air travel has gotten much safer over time. In fact, in 2014, William and Kate were both allowed to take baby Prince George with them on a flight to Australia. Coming in at number 10, no keeping gifts. Being a royal means that these kids are going to have to get used to an outpouring of public attention and affection, which usually means being showered with all kinds of different gifts. In fact, when Prince George was just 18 months old, he received a ton of gifts, in fact 7 times more than the Queen. According to a report from Kensington Palace via CNBC, back in 2014 they listed that Prince George received 774 presents in the course of a year. Although the annoying thing for little George is that he was not allowed to keep most of the gifts that he received. The royal family has very strict rules on what can and cannot be kept, and according to the royals official website, a gift from someone not personally known by the family must fit a very specific criteria. They can only accept consumable items within reason, so flowers, I guess, edible flowers, I don't know. Plus books are allowed, but the author must be speaking about a non-controversial subject, and other small items that cost less than about $200 are also permitted. The main reasoning behind this rule is that the royal family does not want to appear that they are under any obligation from the donor for accepting their gift. Coming to number 9, no nicknames allowed. Now this one seems really particular, but again, this royal rule is put in place to show respect to other members of the royal family. Royalty are expected to be addressed by their full name, which means their given name rather than a nickname given to them by their family. Additionally, it's usually expected that they will also use the royal family member's title when addressing them. For example, when William married Kate, she immediately started being referred to as Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge. Imagine having to always address your wife like that. "Excuse me, Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, what do you want for dinner tonight?" Now, with that said, there are some royals who have broken this rule since they were young. For example, Harry's given name is actually Henry, or to make it even more formal, he should be addressed as Prince Henry Charles Albert David of Windsor, but he usually just goes by Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. And believe it or not, but the same rule also applies to royal children. Coming in number 8, multiple languages required. The royal family must embark on a number of trips around the world to perform their royal duties, and in preparation for that, the royal children must also learn multiple languages. Now, as a kid, being in school can become annoying, and especially when you are told that something you don't want to do is mandatory. However, this is an excellent rule for the royal family to have. Learning a new language expands the way that you think, and you start to process languages and information from this new perspective. It's probably one of the best things that you can do for yourself, and the royal children start learning at a very young age. The goal is for them to at least become fluent or fluent enough in multiple languages to understand and speak with people all over the world. Prince George and Princess Charlotte are said to have already begun learning Spanish, and considering how young they are, they still have tons of time to become fully fluent in the language. Coming in number 7, no Christmas Day presents. Most kids wake up on Christmas morning and can't wait to rush to that tree to see what Santa brought them. Although when it comes to Christmas morning for the royals, things are a little bit different. The royal children do quite the opposite than most around Christmas time and actually open up their presents on Christmas Eve, which means right away that the royal kids don't have the same traditions as everyone else. Apparently this rule originated from a similar German tradition that the royal family has decided to follow for quite some time now. Although the bright side to this annoying rule is that they do get their presents before everyone else does, so that means more time to play on Christmas Day. Coming in number 6, dress code. Now of course, if a dress code is in place for the adults of the royal family, you know the kids also have to follow similarly strict rules. That first time your parents let you dress yourself, in my opinion, is a really important moment for a kid. They actually give you the responsibility and trust you with whatever creative choices you decide to make, you know, aside from telling you not to put your pants on backwards. Most normal parents will just let their kids pick out their own clothes. However, you will never ever catch Princess Charlotte putting on, let's say, a Barbie dress or a JoJo Siwa shirt. You also will probably never see Prince George wearing a graphic tee of his favorite superhero. It's just the way it is for them. It may be annoying, but to keep that royal look, they must follow a strict dress code. Prince George will be wearing proper button-up shirts and shorts until he's about 8 years old. Plus, Princess Charlotte will always be in a dress with a cardigan, of course, depending on the weather. Coming in number 5, can't travel with parents. This point here actually shocked me a bit, but when you think about the worst case scenario, I get why they would put this rule in place. This rule was first made back when jetting off in an airplane was a much more risky way to travel. Because of this, royal officials decided that there needed to be measures in place just on the off chance that there was a fatal accident on the aircraft. If the entire royal lineage was on that plane, it could be really bad for the royal family. So ever since then, the king or queen or their heirs were never allowed to fly together on the same plane, which means that the Queen, Prince Charles, Prince William, and Prince George should never all board the same jet at the same time. However, in recent years, Her Majesty has relaxed this rule because air travel has gotten much safer over time. In fact, in 2014, William and Kate were allowed to take baby Prince George with them on a flight to Australia. Coming in number 4, boys can only wear shorts. Now, as I mentioned previously in my dress code point, Prince George must wear shorts as part of that until he's about 8 years old. In fact, not even a stiff breeze in the winter will put pants on a boy that is in the royal family. You see, in England, shorts represent a bougie and high status in society. I guess they are waiting for him to become a big boy before he can put on his big boy pants. What a strange and annoying rule to have to follow though, but at least it comes to an end at a certain age. Coming in number 3, no baby food allowed. Alright, who remembers the Gerber baby? Huh? Do you remember what your favorite kind of mushy baby food was? Well, the royal children certainly do not. One big rule for new parents of the royal family is that they must never give their kids canned food, including store-bought baby food. Instead, their mother's diet is usually fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as having a personal chef at their beck and call. Royal babies are expected to be eating twice pureed fruits, and the reason for having the fruits pureed twice is just so that there isn't any lumps in it. God forbid. Coming in number 2, males must serve in the military. For a very long time, the royal family and the armed forces have had an intimate association that dates back centuries. The Queen is also the official head of the British Armed Forces, which means that members of the Army and Air Force are required to pledge an oath of allegiance to the monarch. The only exception is the Royal Navy, because they were formed by the monarchy itself instead of the Parliament, which means that the oath is implicit. As a young princess, the Queen herself began a relationship with the British military in 1945 when she joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service, which made her the first female member of the royal family to actually join the armed forces as an active member. Aside from that though, most males in the royal family are required to serve in the military. Although this rule is not set in stone, it must be annoying to feel that pressure as a child to consider which section of the military that you're wanting to serve in. In the coming years though, this will certainly be something that we see Prince George needing to ponder. Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, mandatory etiquette training. Something that was revealed back in 2015 by media outlet Express UK was what lessons British parents deem to be most important to teach their children. Typically, manners and respecting your elders reign supreme in this study, and even so, we bet these parents never considered sending their kids to be trained in these lessons. Yet for children of the royal family, they are put into this formal etiquette training as soon as they're old enough to sit at the table. Mika Meyer, who is an etiquette expert, explained this to People magazine, saying, "They are raised having formal meals, going to formal events, and practicing everything from voice levels to dressing appropriately to even, of course, how to curtsy and bow. The children in the wedding would have been very well prepared through rehearsals and even learned wedding specific behavior and protocol. You know, instead of just getting to enjoy the only time they have left as children. I mean, sure, manners are important to learn for public appearances, but I really hope that behind closed doors, they just let them act like kids."